I think the most dangerous experience I had was how I got robbed in Mexico.
You got robbed in Mexico?
It was horrifying.
Hi guys, welcome back to MidnightO2 Season 2 Episode 6. So today we're going to talk about traveling. I know it's in the middle of pandemics, but I have a special guest for you. Hey. Okay, so let's welcome Evelyn. Hi, Evelyn.
Hi, Amy.
Hi. How's it going?
It's pretty good. Like, standard day.
Okay.
Another day at university, basically.
Cool. So let me introduce Evelyn. Evelyn is an old friend of mine. We went to high school together, and she's currently studying dentistry in Australia. And she is only 23, but she's traveled to 18 countries, more than 60 cities. And I thought that was really impressive. Also, she enjoys photography as well as traveling, of course. That's why I'm happy she's here today with us to talk about traveling. So, welcome.
Thank you for
Okay.
having me on this show.
Yeah, oh my gosh. Like, thanks for suggesting, and also all these kind of thanks for bringing all the stories. And I'm very excited. So let's jump right in. So first of all, why do you like traveling?
I think that's a hard question, but I thought about it. I think I really like enjoying new experiences. So when I'm traveling, I feel like I'm more inclined to do new things and see new things, meet new people. And it kind of gives me like a high that makes me feel less stressful. When I'm studying and when I'm really stressed, I usually plan my trips as a way to de-stress, which is a bit bizarre for my friends, but I think it's very relieving to be thinking about traveling rather than being in the present moment.
That is actually really interesting, for looking forward to travel. And I guess it's just how you live your life. It's a part of your lifestyle already, right? Like traveling and photography. They're huge, important parts.
I think it's pretty much parts of my life because without COVID, a lot of my time and my brain cells will be used on planning my next trip. And if I have a weekend off, I try to go on a day trip, like just drive somewhere, go to the beach, go hiking, take some photos. And last year, which was my first year I got my car, I would drive to a different place every weekend. But obviously, I've kind of run out of places, so I've started to go to the same places, but seeing places in new angles.
It's amazing though. You're only 23 and you've traveled to more than 18 countries and more than 60 cities. And, it's a lot. How did you even manage that?
I think that's a good question. At first, when I was in middle school, which was around like 13, 14, my parents would bring me abroad because they like traveling too. And when I hit 18 and went to university, I think I had more freedom. And like during the breaks, I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I would just go traveling. Which sounds really spoiled, but I tried to look for cheap flights. And my first few destinations were in Australia. I think 2 trips kind of like accelerated my travel journey, which was the first one was when I spontaneously decided to go to New Zealand and become a kiwi bird volunteer for a month. So after that, I feel like there was like no more fear. And the second one was a year after that, which when I was like almost 21, and I went to Canada and USA for 2 months, which I met Amy in Seattle for a week.
Yeah, she did come visit, So I thought that was really cool. So why don't you tell us about your first experience? The Kiwi Bird Volunteer. I think it's a dream for a lot of young people to graduate from college and then they move on to a new job. And some people choose to do this kind of traveling as well as volunteering. So could you tell us more about it?
I think Kiwi volunteering has actually been a dream of mine. Like literally, but I don't know if I told you in high school. Since I was like 17, because I really loved birds. And after I finished my first year of uni, I finally got the chance to have a break, and I just booked No, I didn't just book the flights. I booked with an organization. It was in like northern New Zealand, which is like it's in a place called Coromandel, which is northeast of Auckland, and it was super rural. Like the whole area only had like 300 people. The experience wasn't what I expected because it was actually a lot of tree cutting, like weed plucking, and we have to like traverse through literally unknown mountains and territory with no roads to set up cages to like trap rats so that we can preserve the kiwi bird environment. But I think I don't really regret doing it because without that I think I would be like too. I think, Amy, you know me, I'm always like really positive and dreamy about everything, but I think this was kind of like a reality call, like this is actually hard work. But
Well, I'm glad you learned that.
yeah, but I guess the good thing was if people enjoy rural like nature, we stayed at a hilltop, like a small house in the middle of nowhere, and the view was amazing. You could see the cove, like the rolling green hills, the farms downhill, and you're surrounded by farms with sheep. I love sheep. And at night, the stars would come out and you could see the whole galaxy.
Yeah, only if I were there, I would write another book.
I feel like
Just like looking over the sky and then seeing the counting stars. Yeah,
that's
I would.
the place to write a book because there's literally nothing to do. Like the area has
Wow.
no reception, and watching YouTube was hard. So yeah,
Well, that's hard for some young kids, you know.
I'm a young
Good
kid.
point.
Okay.
Yeah, you are. But you were really young,
Really
relatively young when you were there, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I wanted to know how did you convince your parents, or did they even know?
Oh, I did tell my parents about this. I was just like, oh, I'm gonna go to New Zealand for a month, and they were like, sure, and I went.
Oh, that went easy. I guess your parents are relatively really open for Asian parents, right?
I think that's debatable because my parents I feel like in my parents' minds they have like pre-formed conceptions of certain countries. So they think about China or Southeast Asia as being really dangerous. But when I tell them I'm going to travel in Australia, New Zealand, Canada, US, they're like, just go for it. They're like pretty chill. So I was actually really surprised they would just let me go like that. But I'm glad they did because I try not to hide stuff from my parents.
I see. You tried. I caught the keyword. Okay, moving on. Okay, what was the most interesting or unexpected thing about that trip, other than you had a lot of hard work?
I didn't see a single kiwi bird because kiwi birds are nighttime animals. I know.
Wait, actually?
Yeah, so for lots of conservation work in Australia and New Zealand, it's more about trying to maintain their habitat and keep it healthy for the animals. But then, because a lot of these animals are nocturnal, you just don't get to see them. But,
So you're a kiwi bird volunteer who didn't get to see kiwi bird
yep.
throughout the entire time you were there.
Yeah.
Oh, that is kind of upsetting to hear.
I think I accepted it halfway through the trip. I was like,
Okay.
I went to Auckland Zoo to see my very first kiwi bird in my life. So it worked
Wow.
out.
Well, it's like eye-opening for you, you know, right?
Yeah.
Like it sounds like a interesting experience. Not everybody gets to experience that. It's like living a dream, like you said. It was your high school dream.
Yeah, I think so. And then it kind of taught me that I can be independent-ish and be on low budget because during that time I was like on a really low budget. And they provide food and accommodation for you, so I guess that's good. Even though you're doing hard labor, but if I can do it, all these listeners out there, you guys can probably do it.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's good to know. So, so I was wondering if that traveling experience changed how you think about traveling ever since like your first huge main, you know, experience like this. Did it change what you thought about like traveling at all?
I think after that experience, I was just like, I'm not going to go on any volunteer trips anymore. I'm just going to enjoy life. and just travel. But then I
Well,
think after a few years now,
mm-hmm.
because I've been listening to a lot of travel and like live abroad podcasts, I think I do like if I have the opportunity to like work abroad for a little bit or just like do volunteering for a little bit, because staying in the place for a while really gives you a better taste of the place, and it's quite a nice experience.
That's nice. Well, so do you recommend it though to people?
No.
Really?
Nah.
Okay.
If you're like a hardcore conservation person,
Mm-hmm.
then yes. But if you try it and it's not your thing, don't do it again.
I see. Okay. Well, what about the second experience that you were talking about? The one that you went to Canada and US, and you went to so many places and countries and states in between, like cities, I meant.
Yeah, I went to only West Coast because at that time I was really into like slow paced traveling, and I wanted to do acting in LA for a bit, but back then I had no knowledge about acting. It's not how acting works out. So I think I kind of got like a pretty in depth taste of most of these cities and went to some of the less common like touristy locations.
Yeah, I wanted to know, you mentioned like slow paced traveling. Could you like define that for my audience? I feel like we're not familiar with the term.
I think for me, slow paced is basically spending an extra like 2 or above days in every city. Because if you go on websites like TripAdvisor, they would advise you a certain amount of days for a particular city. For example, Seattle had the recommendation of 4 days,
Mm-hmm.
but then I would usually try to arrange a few more days so that I can take my time and just in case if weather messes up or something, I get to explore more places.
Oh,
It's
that's
also,
actually really
yeah,
smart to do if you have enough budget and enough time, right? Flexibility wise.
yeah. Do you do that though? Like, is
Yeah, I
that
do that
a common
actually.
thing?
Yeah, but I didn't
Oh,
think that it's called slow pace traveling. Is that what it's called?
I couldn't think of a better term.
Well,
So,
for me, I like to stay at one place and just enjoy that city for like as long as possible. Like I'm the type to not liking like moving around too much, like going from places to places cuz I for some reason I just don't like the transportation time in between. Like I guess I get that it's a way to see the city as well, but then I like it when I get to stay at one place and just see the people and observe the scenes and to experience how a normal regular days are like for a specific place, not just seeing them on weekends or not just seeing it or being there as a tourist. You know what I mean?
yeah, I feel you because I really hate transporting, even though I know I
Mhm.
travel a lot, but I actually get plane sick, car sick, train sick. Anything you can think of, I will get sick on it. So,
Aw, that's
yeah, I
hard.
don't particularly enjoy being in between, but it's
Well, do
okay.
you prepare medicine for those? I heard you have to prepare medicine for those.
I don't prepare unless it's really bad. So if I'm going to be on like a long, windy car drive, then I will. And if I'm on a boat, but I pretty much
Mhm.
try and avoid boats at all cost.
I had a hard time in Italy because of the
Yeah,
boats, the ships, the ferries, changing one to another one, trying to get through. Just, it was so difficult for me. I was dizzy most of the time. I had a hard time
where were
enjoying the
you with the
city.
boats?
What do you mean where I was?
Oh, like did you have a particular trip where you needed to use a lot of boat as transportation?
Yeah, I had to because I went to the Blue Hole in Italy. Is that what it's called?
I think so, but I've never
So
been to Italy.
people said the Blue Hole in Italy is like one of the scenes you have to see before you die. Like it's
Yep.
that special. It's that special. It's like among like I think there's like a world record like top 10 places you have to go before you die. Like the Blue Hole in Italy is always on the list. So my aunt said that, "Oh, we should go." And I was like, "Oh, sure." I thought it was just going to be like one trip and we'll be there. one transportation. But then we went from like large bus to middle-sized bus to small bus, and then small bus goes on like a bigger ferry, and ferry got on like a middle-sized boat, and boat went on like a smaller, like really tiny, like two people, that kind of boat. That's not even a boat anymore. And then like it was like a narrow hole in the middle of nowhere, like under a cave, and we had to wait in lines on the ocean. Like we were waiting, basically waiting to get in and waiting for the basically for the ocean, the tides to be at the right level, and we had to physically lie down, like lie down as if like we're sleeping, that kind of lying down, and lie down going into the blue hole, like into the cave to see the blue hole. Do you know what I mean? Like this
Do
sounds
you
like
think it was worth it? Like, was it actually
it's
must do
ridiculous,
before you
okay?
die?
But okay, they said even if you got to in front of the even if you got to the point where you're about to go in, sometimes you don't get to go in because of like a huge suddenly out of nowhere there's a wind, or like the tides don't work out. But they said I got lucky, so I was able to go in to see a blue hole. But you know what it looked like to me?
What does it look like?
It looked like the type of like community swimming pool that has like a light at the bottom that's like shining up. That's like blue.
Oh my god.
Like that's what it looked like. Like sorry to disappoint people who really want to go. Maybe it's worth seeing in person for you, but for me personally, I didn't think that it I didn't think it was worth it for me because I was dizzy like 99% of the time for that. And I had to I could only be in there for like few minutes, and I had to see, and I tried to take photos, but photos didn't come out great. Of course, it was like in the middle of the ocean. There's a cave, and in the cave there's a hole, and the hole was like having like water reflections from sunlight to create like the blue kind of color.
Oh god. I guess that's a
Yeah, this is what happens when your guest also has a podcast, guys. Like, I become the guest. Like, I'm kind of confused. Like, why am I sharing my traveling experience? Okay, well, like, I just thought that it's nice to share, okay?
I think I personally prefer traveling alone just because I pretty much got used to it as soon as I started traveling alone in 2016. I'm just really used to doing things at my own pace, seeing buildings at my own pace, like shopping at my own pace, and I kind of feel a bit stressed if people want to go to another place and I haven't finished exploring a particular place. So I guess that's why I like traveling alone. But if it's in like a natural place, like a hike or like going to a lake or a beach, sometimes it's nice to have someone because you might be in the same place for hours, or for hiking you might just be strenuous exercise for hours, and it's always good to have someone to talk to and cheer you on. But I think that's very personal. I know like some people who enjoy being in nature by themselves.
That's true.
Which sometimes I do. It's really relaxing, but sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm lonely. I want to have someone talk to me. But I was gonna say, if I was traveling in the city or where there's like lots of museums, I would pretty much 100% prefer traveling by myself.
Same. Oh my
Just 'cause-
gosh. I feel the same.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
So I'm the type to love like museums, and especially art and history museums by myself, because I want to read all the descriptions written on it. And usually people don't let me take the time to let me finish reading all the text on it. I spent 4 hours on my first visit to British Museum day one, and I couldn't finish it, and I went for like a second time and went for a third time because I wanted to finish reading what was written on it, but it didn't work out because it was too big, and I didn't finish, but I ended up spending a lot of time by myself.
I think same. Like, it really depends on what, but I really like modern art, so I tend to spend a lot of time in modern art museums. And then there's this museum in Tokyo. It's called the Roppongi Hills, and on top of the tallest building, there's an art museum. I spent like 4 hours there. It's a modern art museum.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot remember who had a like exhibition there, but it was like partly like abstract and partly was like childish style art, but about like darker themes. And there's a whole section about adolescence, and it was R-rated, so it was kind of awkward because I was with my dad, but it was really interesting to see like another side of like growing up.
Yeah, because like as an artist, I love visiting museums as well. And contemporary art is always something that's debatable among art world and, in art history. And some people like it, some people don't. So when I was in London, I visited Tate Modern and I had classes there. So if you like contemporary art, that's definitely a place you need to visit.
Oh, I do want to visit.
Yeah, Tate
London.
Modern. You should definitely go and spend hours and hours and days there. Yeah, it's definitely.
Yeah, it sounds like something.
Yeah,
I
I
would
bought a bunch of books from the bookstore in Tate Modern. I always love going to the little store inside a museum or on the entrance, usually next to the entrance or next to the exit. And I will always find a lot of cute things specific and local about the museum or about what was on the show. So, it was nice. I got a book that talked about how to be a great artist. So,
Did it
well,
work?
it worked out
You are a
because
great
I'm
artist.
here, right? It is an art form that what I'm doing verbally. Yeah.
That's true.
And I still am doing different kind of arts, I miss physically painting and cutting, doing different kind of arts, actually.
You should start doing
Yeah,
it
I
again.
know,
Why
but I
not?
left
But
most of my things in the States. I don't have the tools here in Taiwan. Yeah.
true.
So, what was the most dangerous experience you've ever had traveling alone as a girl?
I think the most dangerous experience I had, which it will be on my podcast as well, was how I got robbed in
You
Mexico.
got robbed in Mexico? Like when you were by yourself?
Well, more like pickpocketed, but it was horrifying.
What happened? What happened?
So I went to Mexico alone, by booking a flight from LA like spontaneously, and before to that I pretty much knew nothing about Mexico. And on the third day there, I went on a boat trip, and I thought it would be like a fun snorkeling boat trip, but I was wrong. It was basically a drink your life away boat trip. So there I had like around 7 drinks, I think. And then on the boat I met some American girls, and we agreed that we would go clubbing that night. I went back to the hostel, got ready, and I met a girl from my hostel. She's a Colombian girl, and because I declined her like request to hang out the previous night because I was too tired, I invited her to come along and go clubbing. So I was like, hey, do you want to go and like have fun in Mexico? It was my last night there, I believe. So we went to this all-you-can-drink club. I think it was jungle themed in like the beach district of Cancun. And at first it was pretty fun. We just, like, everyone was really wild because I think it was mainly Caucasian, like there were a lot of Caucasians that came to Mexico just for a purpose of getting drunk. So everyone was really drunk, and then I was dancing on a table, like people were like pouring alcohol in each other's mouth. And at some point of the night, the American girls decided to pile their bags in like a pile in a corner, and one of us would look after it. So at first it was fine, and then I thought wanted to let loose because I would literally carry my bag everywhere, but I was like, oh, I'm in Mexico, should go out. It was a bad idea. I had like around 10 drinks, and I don't even know. I'm pretty sure there was someone around the bag the whole time, and the Colombian girl started to get intimate like with one of the guys, and I was just dancing with some other people. And at one point around 2 a.m. during the night, the Colombian girl said that she wanted to leave. So I was like, oh, okay, bye, I'll see you in the hostel. And I didn't look at my bags. So I just kept on like dancing, drinking. I didn't even have
Wow.
the mood or time to look at my phone, so I didn't even realize things were gone. It was until around like 3 a.m. I left the club with American girls, and I was like, wait, where's my phone? And they thought I was so drunk that I'm having hallucinations, but I was like, no. I was like, dude, my phone is gone. We went back to the club, asked the security to check the toilets, just check everything, and like there was nothing. So basically that night I stayed at the American girl's house because I have nowhere to stay. I called up my bank, went on my social media, and just like locked everything up so everything was safe. And I tried to use Find My iPhone, but there was like no progress. So I went to bed for 5 hours. And the next
Oh my gosh.
The next day,
Did you bring your passport?
oh, thank God, I had my passport in my bag, but she didn't steal my passport.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
thank God. Yeah.
Like
That's so
the
scary.
next day, I went to a Mexican police office and I filed a report, but then the police didn't really understand English, so it took us an hour to do the report, but he was really nice. So, yeah.
That's hard. That's so dangerous, It could have been worse.
Yeah.
You never know when you're at somewhere that you don't really know where it is. So what advice would you give to girls who want to travel alone? Like 3 advice? Maybe 1 or 2, 3?
Don't drink that much. No, that's not my advice. I think
Well, that's one important part though, wherever you are.
I think always like have your belongings on you and maybe check upon it once in a while, no matter how drunk you are. And I would, if it's possible, I would probably hide some cash somewhere in my shoes or I don't know, like little pockets, because when I was like pickpocketed, all of my cash was gone and my credit card was gone, so I was left with nothing, like literally nothing apart from my passport. So that was pretty horrifying.
Wow.
And I left some cash in the hostel, so that wasn't stolen. So that's why I was able to get back to America safely and without too much problem. But yeah.
Well, I'm glad you're here, I'm glad you're here safely talking to me.
I'm glad too.
So, yeah.
Well,
What about where's the most beautiful city so far, or most beautiful country in your heart? If you could recommend people to travel to one place only.
I think it's Kyoto, but I think if you invite 10 guests, 9 will say Kyoto, because do you like Kyoto?
I love Kyoto. I've been there like 5, 6 times.
Yeah, I've been there like 4 times or 5. I can't remember.
Yeah, wearing like the kimono and then a traditional outfit, just walking through the older part of the Kyoto and then experiencing everything there. I love the vibes there.
I think there are like just so many temples, and every one of them has their own unique style. It's quite a photogenic city if you're into photography. Just lots and lots of temples, and there's sakura and like the orange autumn leaves, which you don't get in Australia. So that was lovely because I got to see the autumn leaves 3 years ago. Yeah.
So going at the right time.
Yeah.
And that's important.
Kyoto is also the home of matcha, and I actually went to Uji, I believe, like Uji, and there were so many matcha stores, and
I love matcha.
I also
oh my
love
gosh.
the traditional tea ceremonies, which my brother calls wasting money, but I just love the vibe, pretending I'm Japanese.
I think the tea ceremony is worth visiting, worth doing. There's some places you could schedule it ahead of a time and you could experience it with the local Japanese.
I think as a like matcha lover, I think it's definitely worth it. Like I spent that money right there, even though I'm a cheap traveler.
Is there any like secret place you would tell me and tell my audiences so they could visit, or like favorite store, those kind of things? Anywhere in the world.
I have 2, I think. One is, I know Bangkok has recently become really popular, but for those who still think Bangkok is a poor country, Thailand is a poor country and Bangkok is a poor city, they should really visit Bangkok again, because I think it's kind of geared toward a particular audience. Like if you love the city life, if you love shopping and you love food, it's perfect. It's really worth staying a while there just to explore all the little shopping districts and kind of experience how Thai people live.
So the
There,
lifestyle and then the improvements and just the vibes in the city is so different.
yep. And I just suddenly remembered I would recommend Ayutthaya, which is an hour and a half north of Bangkok. And just because it's so you can have like different a different experience, I guess. If you're because a lot of people just go to Bangkok and then they're
Mm.
like, oh, it's a big city. But then Ayutthaya is a really small like historical town that used to be Thailand's capital. I think up until the 1350 or 1450. So it was it was you like originally a whole city, but then most of the city's gone. But now you can still see all the temples and lots of like the Buddhist monuments there,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like walking, kind of like walking into another world.
So I
Yeah,
realized you like a combination of how modern things collides with traditions. I feel like I see
yeah.
that in your photography as well, you know?
Oh,
So Evelyn also does photography. I think you're very talented. You know, the color, the use, the different types of camera, lenses. I notice the details, even though I'm not really good at photography, but I've learned some of it. So how do you think that photography tie in with your traveling experience?
I think in 2018 I really got into like night and skyscraper photography of big cities because of a workshop by an like Instagram photographer called Demas. And after that I tried to aim to go to cities with a lot of like cityscape, like skyscrapers. And if I go to these cities, I'm always actively looking for photo spots.
I think of
Recently,
like Shanghai, Hong Kong, Singapore when you mention those
yeah,
cities, like the vibes, atmospheres.
yeah, I think, let me have a think. Um, I think Shanghai would probably have the best skyscrapers.
Mm.
Shanghai as a city, I thought it was a bit gray and maybe my expectations were too high. But then the skyscrapers are actually amazing and there are a lot and lots of photographers in Shanghai. So I'm someone who would message photographers and go like, "Hey, let's do a photo shoot and let's go to some
Oh,
tall buildings randomly and take photos." And I just find it's like a perfect place to meet other photographers and
that's
just take
amazing, you know?
photos. Yeah.
Yeah, I think people who do like art, or I think photography is a type of art in my perspective. You need people to do things together, and sometimes it's even better, like the experience it, like in general, you know?
I actually personally prefer doing photography with people. I know I'm
Oh,
usually
you
like a
do?
solo person. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
cuz I think I hit a pause in 2018 which where I didn't know my direction in photography, and I think by collaborating with others really helped me grow and learn. And it saves you money from taking a class, but I really think that other photographers are your best teachers. And at first I was really shy and wouldn't like thought it would be really awkward to message people on Instagram. But I just took the shot. I was like, okay, I'll just message all these photographers and
Mm-hmm.
like we all well, if you don't have like 10,000 followers, you'll get rejected like 90% of the time. But there's always that 10% that's willing to hang out and do some photography. So it's really fun.
It's amazing, you know, because I feel like as a writer, I'm alone a lot of times, and sometimes I feel lonely just writing by myself. But lately, I also met a lot of great writers online, and we were exchanging writings, and it felt really personal and different to me. You know, I just feel like I wanted to share that with you. It's somehow connected to a part of me.
That's so lovely.
Yeah,
Oh, I
it's
didn't never
also
thought
like
about that.
very private. It's very naked to share things like that, to exchange writings. I always say like exchanging writing is like exchanging a part of the soul. You know, for me, it
Oh,
means that much to me. So I it's amazing and then kind of inspiring for me to hear that you're doing collaborations in photography and you're looking for other photographers to do things with you. I think I do think that two people or three people are better than doing it all by yourself when it comes to arts. Sometimes collaboration brings new ideas, like the collides of different conflicts, ideas, conflicted perspectives will always create new artwork. That's what I think.
I think so. And I've also like met quite a few very critical photographers, and even though it's always nice to have words sugarcoated, they also allow me to learn a lot. So it's always different to like meet different people and how they approach different topics, I think.
I see. Then do you feel like photography and traveling they kind of work together, or sometimes you prefer travel without taking pictures?
I think originally I would prefer travel without taking pictures, but at some point I think they go hand in hand because photography is a huge hobby of mine. But for me, if I keep on going to the same places, sometimes it's hard to find inspiration. So my best source of inspiration and passion and motivation is when I travel. So now it goes hand in hand for me, but it really depends on the person. I think traveling for me means experiencing new things and renewing my perspective on life and having fun, which is really important.
That's good. Yeah, I think that's good to hear
Yeah.
because having something that you like and enjoy is difficult. No matter if it's traveling or food, photography, dancing, arts. It's always nice to know what you like and always to enjoy lifestyle outside of work, right?
Yeah, I think it's quite important because before I was 15, there was a period of time which I didn't know what I enjoyed. But now I've kind of figured out what I enjoyed. So it's always nice.
That's good. Do you feel like you find more of yourself after traveling or in the middle of traveling while going through different cities, stepping through different roads, going to different, corners, different stores?
To be honest, not really. But I think it's a like good escape and something I want to add in my life, and I would like to have these memories in my life when I can look upon when I'm older.
That is
Like
really great,
like I
you know?
really like before like a few years ago, I was really like like a few years ago I thought traveling would be a way for me to change my life and then that I'll go on the life changing trip. But it didn't happen for me and it didn't happen for lots of people. But I think even though like nothing life changing happened, it's always to collect little memories that like shape me a little bit.
Yeah, I'm going to let that sink in with me for a bit. Yeah, so, like we talked so much about traveling and photography in general. Where is your next destination? After COVID, of course.
Within budget, my next destination would be Xi'an, Chongqing, and Chiang Mai, and
Those are a lot of
Phuket.
places.
Yep,
If you could
that's
just choose
two
one, choose
separate
one,
trips. All
choose
right, I'm
one.
going to Thailand, 100%.
Thailand?
100%.
Oh, it seems like you really like Thailand.
I think so, but I can't guarantee that it's gonna be like I can't guarantee that I'll always think the same way of Thailand because I obviously haven't stayed there for that long. But I would honestly love to explore more of it.
Well, I do think like countries and places change quite a bit, you know?
I think so.
Yeah, it really depends on like the city vibes, atmospheres, and sometimes the world's changing as well. With the
Yeah,
COVID going on, like how is that in Australia?
it's actually surprisingly well. Not going to politics, but I am actually proud of our prime minister for once.
I saw a newspaper. Yes.
Yeah,
Great. It's
he's not
amazing.
very popular, but we appreciate him for this. We,
That's
ac-
good.
but Taiwan is definitely doing a better job. We actually had a 6 week lockdown in March where my university got cancelled and moved online. So I was a bit shocked because that came really quickly. And but now it's kind of okay that I going back to pre-clinic and practicing like drilling teeth and restoring teeth. But I have to stay for an extra 2 weeks, but I shouldn't be complaining. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that you're able to share all these with me.
Yeah. Thank
Yeah,
you.
because like traveling really impacted the airline industry as well as traveling industry.
It does. Like, I think a lot of budget airlines are shutting down or like in deep trouble financially.
As a travel expert, I think I'll call that since I feel like you are really a travel expert. Do you believe that the traveling after COVID-19 would be so different? And if so, how different? Like, what is the new way of traveling? Like, what do you think that would be?
I think for countries that are doing well-ish, I feel like for the first few years there will be probably more traveling within the country and within like close countries. And I think for long term, I don't know. I really don't want to be a bit negative, but I feel like a lot of small businesses might close down, and then it might be a long time for them to financially recover. But on a good side, at least in Australia, there's been a lot of like traveling within the country, and a lot of Australians are getting to see more of the countries because there's a tendency for Australians to go to Bali or like Phuket as soon as they get holidays, and but Australia is actually huge and there's a lot of places to explore. So I guess that's quite nice.
Nice. Okay. Well, thanks again for your time today, and you answered a lot of you shared a lot of your experiences with me, including the kiwi bird one. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
So, I expected you at least got to, touch some kiwi bird, but I don't think that's allowed.
I don't know if that's legal.
That's legal. Oh. Should I say this?
I don't know, but
Let me
just
take
do
it back. Just,
Yeah.
no,
Well.
I won't. I'm kind of afraid to go to Australia, but I want to visit one day.
Oh,
So,
you should come. It's
yeah.
not as scary as you think, apart from huge cockroaches, but it's all good.
That is very scary to me. Okay, well, Evelyn, thank you again, and why don't you say goodnight to my audience?
Okay, good night, everyone.
Okay, thanks, Evelyn. So, that was my conversation with Evelyn. I hope you like our story. This episode was a little bit long, but I wanted to keep them all because of the great stories that she shared. And you could find her account and information below. And thanks again for tuning into MidnightO2. I am your host, Amy, and I will see you next week. Good night.